in Baltimore, and the Orioles think they're in a pennant race, keeping us up late at night. But this guy has been down at College Park doing the good work down there on the front end of the Terps football season, the new Cole Fieldhouse, another year with DJ Durkin. We welcome in Don Marcus. He is Sports Prof 56, and of course the longtime beat writer and historian for all things Maryland basketball, football, and Terps edumacation. You can follow him at Sports Prof 56 out on Twitter, and of course at BaltimoreSun.com. Don, been a couple of months, man. Last time I got up with you, I think the basketball season was coming to an end, and these guys were going into the draft and all that stuff. But lo and behold, there is a football season, and I tell you what, no Little Sisters of the Poor this year, right? I mean, starting things down in Austin, Texas, against the Texas Longhorns. This is quite a preparation Durkin's got on his hands the next couple of weeks, right?
Hey, Nestor. Yeah, it's definitely different than getting ready for his first game against Howard. So, whether they're ready for it, we'll see in a few weeks. But it certainly does ratchet things up right away, right from the start. You know, if anybody thought there was still a honeymoon phase, the honeymoon phase is over. Reality is there, and we'll see, you know, if they're going to be the surprise team in the Big Ten or if they're going to take their knocks with the toughest schedule in the Big Ten. So it's going to be an interesting year.
Well, you know, I saw you out tweeting at the Cole opening last week. I did not make it down there. I was on a business event in the afternoon, and I was looking down on my phone, and I saw the pictures, and look, man, you have spent far more time in that building than I have, and I feel like I spent a lot of time in there. I got some great memories of Cole Fieldhouse. And the gutting of it and the iconic nature of the outside of the building and the retro part of it. But the real deal here is this is how the football program and the basketball program are going to get better and going to try to win championships in the Big Ten and compete. This is what all that money was about in switching conferences, and now it's open. And as a recruiting tool for young men and young women who come onto campus to be student athletes, I don't know that you could ask for anything more that really ties guys your age and my age together with younger people, because it's very, very easy to rip a building down. It's a lot harder to keep it up. I know Governor Schaefer said that about Memorial Stadium, which is now long gone, but they managed to do something kind of special there, right?
Yeah, I walked in and just the sheer expanse of it, and then you look around different touches, and it's really, you have to realize that it's not even half done in terms of what they plan on doing with the space, with the practice fields and with the offices and with the weight room and with this medical research center. I mean, it really is going to be, if they get the money to get as far as they want to get, it's going to be a spectacular building. I don't know if it is totally unique. Somebody told me that Colorado has something similar out in Boulder, but it certainly is unique to this area in terms of, if you remember, I've been around 30 years, and you remember sort of the dilapidated little team house they had, which they still use for some of the Olympic sports. And those sports will now move into Gossett. It really, Maryland has come quite a ways in the last 30 years.
Well, and I guess as a recruitment tool, when we talk about it, you said I was out in Boulder a couple months ago, and that's a real college destination, much like, I guess, Lincoln, Nebraska, and some other places where you go and there's nothing else but there. I've always thought, going back to the ACC, even on the football side, I never understood why they didn't recruit better. And I know they had that whole spate with quarterbacks in New Jersey and New York many, many moons ago under Bobby Ross and Krivak and sort of that era. But, being positioned between Baltimore and Washington, being on a subway line that can lead you to D.C., being near airports, being at a big city and being in that kind of an environment, I've always thought the football program has sort of been a little bit underserved as well as undersupported, over the last 20, 25 years. I know the step up into the Big Ten, you don't want to be Penn State basketball and sort of a perennial doormat, but Maryland definitely has stepped up their game here the last couple of years and making the necessary improvements that are going to help the football program. Look, the basketball program's fine, right? But if this Cole project is to help anything, the money's in football in the Big Ten, right?
Well, it's I don't, I think there's sort of basketball will be helped just by just the fact that Coalfield House is still an iconic building in the history of Maryland basketball and history of college basketball. So I think that they'll show the basketball players that building, but I don't think they're going to spend a lot of time in there. Whereas football, you talk about being underserved, under-recruited, and everything like that, and they have not had a recruiter like DJ Durkin. Certainly in my time, I mean, Bobby Ross. I came in sort of in the middle of his tenure, toward the end of his tenure, and he was a good recruiter, and he had some people who could recruit. But after he left the program, under Joe Krebeck, and then under the succession of coaches they had, never got any traction going, except for those 2 years when Ralph, sort of hit perfect storm in the ACC with getting a couple of really good players on campus, and then having Miami and Florida State rebuilding at the same time. That sort of gave Maryland an opening, and they took advantage of it. But he never built on that, just as Gary never really built on the national championship. And then you had the Randy Edsall 4 year, or I think it was 4 years, that never really got anywhere. He made a little noise the first year in the Big Ten, but again, that was mostly because Michigan and Penn State were down, and now they are back with a vengeance. So you needed somebody like a DJ Durkin to come in here and turn it around, and he has with the recruiting. Did a spectacular job. He and his staff did a great job last year, top 20 class. I'm sure they're headed toward another top 20 class. I think they're rated number 17 now, but it's pretty early in the process. And and getting quarterbacks. I mean, this year it will not be for a lack of options that they'll have at the quarterback position. It's a question of if any of them are ready to step up and be the man from day one, and we'll see in the next few weeks.
Well, make a case, for them being a plus team this year. Maybe not a bowl team, but a team that's not going to lose by 50 points to Michigan or Ohio State or the elite programs in the Big Ten. What are the baby steps here that I don't want to say, take any consolation prize from not winning games, either win or you lose, but what about them this year is going to stand out and be better in your mind?
Well, I think the offense should be a lot better as long as they don't run through the quarterbacks and have injuries at the quarterback position like they had a few years ago, because, as I said, they have a lot of options, and it's a question whether a kid like Kasim Hill is ready as a freshman, whether a Tyrell Pigrome has made a jump as a sophomore, whether a kid like Caleb Henderson, who came out of high school in Northern Virginia, went to North Carolina, sat behind Mitch Trubisky and Marquise, I forget the other kid's name, it slips my mind, but he was an old ACC player. Whether those three guys, and then Max Bortenschlager, who I said sounds like he should be playing at Iowa or Nebraska, whether he is sort of quietly he might be the guy. At least for the opening game, because he actually played in an environment like Texas. He started at Nebraska last year. So he has options. I think they all can throw the ball, which is something that they've had trouble doing. They have a terrific running game with Ty Johnson and Lorenzo Harrison and a couple other guys. Their offensive line's experience. They got some pretty good receivers in DJ Moore and Tavon Jacobs. And Shaquille Vi, who's made an interesting, switch from Maryland to Towson and back to Maryland. So offensively, I think they could be a team that can put up a lot of points. The question is, defensively, how many points are they going to have to score to win some of those games? And I'm not sure what the answer is. They're going to have a lot of young players on the defensive side. I'm not sure that the depth is quite there yet defensively. The quality depth is there, and that I think is going to be the big question: whether they can keep people off keep their defense, get their defense off the field and keep their opponents off the scoreboard.
Well, I was at that Towson game. It was about 5-6 years ago, whenever it was, when Towson gave them fits down there in the rain. It was a very good Towson team. It wasn't a very good Maryland team. Weird that they're getting together again here this year, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure how it came about. I know that Towson is hoping for a better year this year. With the fifth-year transfer quarterback, and we'll see what happens. But I think it's good that they are playing. I don't know if it'll be good for Maryland, because I think they need to get some quality. They need to get more than a win against an FCS team. So I think it's a win-win for Towson. I'm not sure if it's a win-win for Maryland.
For Maryland, during the course of the season, they're going to see Ohio State on the 7th of October, but really it's all kind of stacked up on the back end, right? I mean, once they get into November, the cold weather, Michigan State, Penn State, boom, 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 heading into Thanksgiving week, that is, they get a chance to sort of ramp up in maybe a way they didn't last year, where they kind of got crushed after that Purdue game that really flashed a whole lot. I mean, the Purdue game, I think, sort of raised the bar of expectations for Terps fans, and it was they got the boom lowered on them after that.
Right, and they were dealing with injuries. They had lost Will Likely at that point. Perry Hills was in and out of the lineup, and it was sort of a gauntlet of opponents. This year, they do build up to that, and two of those games are at home, which Michigan's at home, and Ohio.
Penn State.
Penn State is at home. Ohio State's on the road. And Michigan State's on the road. Michigan State, I still think there are feelings. I was at Big Ten Media Day talking to some of the beat writers from Michigan State, and they feel that they may not be as bad as they were a year ago, but they're still certainly not back to being a team that can compete for a division title, and certainly not a team that people think will win more than it loses. So I think Maryland has a chance to go in there and maybe sneak a win. I think they're going to have to win a couple of games that people will say it's a pick'em game, or a game that Maryland might not be favored in, for them to get to that 6-win total. I think it's going to be hard, but it's not impossible.
Don Marcus covers all things Maryland football as well as basketball at the Baltimore Sun. He is a tremendous Terps historian. You can follow him out on Twitter at SportsProf56, and as well as at thebaltimoresun.com for all things Terps. Terps get it going at Texas on the 2nd of September, then Towson at College Park on the 9th, bye week early, and then a home game with UCF, and then really straight into the Big Ten schedule, Minnesota, Ohio State, Northwestern, and on and on. And meanwhile, here in the summer, the basketball program on a little bit of quiet time here for a little while, but boy, we're not far from ramping that thing up, right? And I think a lot of questions for folks about a lot of the new players that are going to be a part of the program this year. Some thoughts about basketball and the sort of leftovers after Melo Trimble.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting because, Mark, all the success that Mark has had at Maryland is tied to the 3 years that Melo has played there. And now it's going to be life after Melo. I think they're going to be okay. Anthony Cowan has had a terrific summer. I didn't see the last couple of results from the Kenner League, but he had a spectacular game Friday night, and he had a really good showing up at the Under Armour camp, where he was a counselor playing against pretty good competition, other college players, and a lot of people took notice of his improvement. And and they have two guys, one who I think both will be NBA players, Kevin Huerter and Justin Jackson, back as sophomores, along with Cowan as a sophomore, and I think that's going to be the heart and soul of the team. And they add two freshmen, one from Baltimore, Darryl Morsell, who I think is going to give them some athleticism and some defense, and maybe a little offense that they have, type of offense they haven't had from that position because of his athleticism. And Mark Turgeon, I know, likes his toughness, and he's big. He's a bigger guard than they've had, 6'5" guard. And then they have a kid named Bruno Fernando, who I think could certainly compete for Big Ten Freshman of the Year with a lot of big name players that got a lot more attention coming out of high school because this kid is 6'10", 230, can go inside and out, and from everything I hear, he is the real deal. He is. I don't know if he's a one and done, but he may be a two and done. And the one thing I've heard about him is he plays with a lot of passion, and he also plays defense, which they haven't had from their big men who like a Diamond Stone or Robert Carter a couple of years ago. So I think that's going to be interesting to see, and I think it's going to be a much more. I think it's going to be interesting to see Cowan coming out of the shadows of Melo Trimble and being able to sort of step up and be the lead guard and also be a leader, which he sort of he definitely deferred to Melo as a number of them did last year, and I think that's one thing Mark talked to him about after the season was over when he was pretty sure Melo was leaving, that these guys have to be vocal, which Melo wasn't. They have to be emotional, which Melo wasn't. And I think you're going to see that type of, that kind of difference with the Maryland team this year.
Don, I know you know that 30 for 30 is coming out this week on Dunbar. I had Bob Wade on earlier this week, and, I was thinking about the pipeline to Wake Forest with Muggsy and the Georgetown with all the players and John Thompson and the old lefty era and all the things that went on, Keith Booth. The Morsel commitment to Maryland, that's a good thing. I like when kids from Mount St. Joe want to go play at Maryland, and I know, it might not be the hotbed for basketball that it's been at various points, but still a great place to recruit here in Baltimore. And Bino Ranson, a kid that, I've known since he was a young boy playing on my basketball team out of Golden Ring Junior High School. It's nice to see local guys, and I think that does drum up a little bit more support here from the community in places where a lot of Mount St. Joe grads have seen him play over there, and it was a really big deal over there that day when he committed last fall.
It was, and it was a big deal when they got Jalen Smith, who's even a higher rated prospect than Morsel, to commit this summer. And he's a 4-star recruit, but he's had a 5-star summer, so I have a feeling he may be a 5-star by the time he shows up in College Park. And and that's been I know Pat Clatchy has always had a good relationship with Mark, but he's also had a good relationship with Jay Wright at Villanova, and that's where Phil Booth went. He had a good relationship with at Notre Dame, and so I think getting Morsel to commit to Maryland certainly helped, and it helped in terms of getting Jalen Smith behind him. And so I think anytime you get your best players from the city, it's a good thing. And that's been an up and down adventure for Maryland over the years. And I'm looking forward to seeing that 30 for 30, because I covered a lot of those guys when they played with other teams, not necessarily with Maryland and in the NBA. So I'm looking forward to seeing that tomorrow night.
Well, we've known that's a great story for 30 years. That was our little story here. And, all these kids from one little place wind up playing in the NBA and have these storied careers. It is nice that story got told, especially told by another prep athlete, Bobby Sablehouse, around here, right?
Right, yeah. And I remember doing a story about him as a promising quarterback, and they thought he was going to be the heir apparent to Danny Warfel. And, he had some problems and trying to live up to that, but it obviously it's turned out well for him professionally. And I think it's great that he's involved in the project, because he really can give it a local feel with the local knowledge involved.
Yeah, he gave it a lot of love, man. He was calling me 2 years ago, telling me all about it. So always great to have you on, Don. I hope you're having a great summer. How's your basketball game? You doing all right?
It's good. I'm back playing, and no, it's great. It's great. I'm shocked that at my advanced age, I'm still running with young guys. So it's fun.
I want to see that one day. Put some Facebook Live up on that for me there. He is Don Marcus. He is Sports Prof 56 out on Twitter, and of course at the Baltimore Sun, doing all things with the Turtles as they head down to Austin to start their season on September 2nd. Hey, great having you on, Don. Be well. Enjoy the rest of the summer here. We'll get you working real hard in no time. About 2-3 weeks from now, we'll never know we had an off season.
Take care, Nestor.
There he goes. Don Marcus was down at Cole last week tweeting away and showing off pictures. Great to visit with him. I wanted to do that. We're going to have head coach DJ Durkin here on WNST later on in the week as well. You'll want to check that out. And everything you find or miss or want to hear is in the Buy a Toyota audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. Of course, our morning newspaper ships to your email inbox digitally at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That is brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. It's always $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life there, and you can learn more, get a little inspiration at PlanetOfTriumphs.com as well. Any breaking news out of the Ravens or the Orioles? I hope there's no more Ravens breaking news. Every time I get a Ravens breaking news text from WNST, it's bad news. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis Colatzos will be here on Thursday driving you home from 3 until 5. That is the SSV. That's the Sunday Sports Voice. Now heard on Thursdays from 3 until 5 here at WNST. I am a very available individual. We're going over to London next month. If you want to participate in any of our parties, just toss me an email, nasty@WNST.net. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports